All right, so today we're going to be going over the basics of Java programming. I'm going to skip the lecture that I gave last time. I basically went over like the differences between different kind of languages and human language versus computer language, but I got feedback that people didn't really like that. So I'm just going to jump into this. So I asked everyone to download NetBeans and the Java JDK.
Mhm.
You're gonna need this at some point. It's in the email that I sent.
Yeah, I downloaded it.
Okay, so when you open it, it's gonna look like this. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, there's gonna be nothing there, but I'll take you through the steps of what you're supposed to do. So in order to start a new project, well, it's gonna look like it's gonna look something like this. Can you see my mouse?
Mhm.
What you want to do when you first start is you hit this button here, which is New Project. It's basically a new folder. So when you press it, it's going to ask you for what kind of project and project type. So we want Java and Java application. Okay?
Okay.
And then you're
I'm
going to
opening it right now.
all right, so I'll give you a second. I'm going to try to run through this fast because it's late.
Yeah, I know. I don't blame you.
Yeah,
I can't promise that I'm gonna do homework tonight.
it's okay. Well, the next one's coming on Saturday because of the wedding that I'm going to. But
Okay. Hold on. So you said new project?
yeah. And then category Java and project type is Java application. Got it? Hello? Still there?
Oh my gosh. Okay, say it again. Category is what?
Java,
Uh-huh.
and then project type is Java
Project.
application.
Okay, got it.
And you're gonna hit next, and then it gives you a project
Uh-huh.
name, so I'm gonna call it test project. All right, and this is gonna be the name of the folder.
Okay.
You can call it whatever you want.
Got
That's
it.
the name of the folder.
Okay.
All right, and then when you hit finish, it's gonna generate the project. It's gonna set up the folder, all this stuff. Um, So I already have another project over here. You're gonna ignore it, but just look at the test project one. So it created a new
Okay.
folder called test project. It created a folder in there called source packages. Created a project called test project, and then your first file is called testproject.java.
Mhm.
So this is what a Java file looks like. It's just a text file. You could have written this in Notepad. You could have written this in Google Drive. I mean, what we downloaded is called an IDE. It's a in, interactive development environment. I think that is called. I think that's what it stands for.
Mhm.
Um, and it basically is like Microsoft Word for code. It has a whole bunch of nice features that when you write code, it really helps make everything much easier. Um, so all code runs just in regular text, and it's the file format, the ending of the file, that tells you what language it is. So all of the Java programs end in .java, right?
Mhm.
And this is just so that when you have it in a folder, you can tell what language you're supposed to be running it in. Um, so in this file, we have package test project, which says that this is part of the test project package. It also says that uh, you're going to pull in everything else that's in the package into this file. More on that later. You've also have a class here. You can think of a class as an object. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so how I explained it before was that if the class, instead of being called test project, which it is here, right? Public class, test project is the name. Instead of being called test project, if the class was called car, for example, right?
Mhm.
In here, you could have things like the number of wheels, or the number of doors. You also have things in classes called methods. In the test project class, we have one method called the main method, right? Going back to the original analogy, if this was the car class, this method could be something like steer or drive,
Yeah.
stop. It's what the class does.
Yeah.
Okay. How Java works is that it looks for at least one class, right? And in the class, there has to be a main method, and the main method has to look exactly like this. It has to be public, static, void, main, and then this fancy stuff. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, every method begins and ends with an open curly bracket and end with an open curly brace. Excuse me. The method runs. The computer will run anything between this open curly brace and close curly brace. It goes left to right, top to bottom, each line at a time. Okay. So what's traditional for every beginning programmer is to print out "Hello World." So I want you to copy exactly what I type, okay?
Okay.
And you have to make sure that everything is exactly the same case, which means if I type uppercase, you have to type uppercase. If I type lowercase, you type lowercase. So capital S system dot out dot println, okay? Open parentheses, and you'll notice that when you do the open parentheses, NetBeans automatically gives you a close parentheses and a semicolon. And then you're going to hit double quote. You'll also notice that NetBeans gave you a close double quote. And you're
Wait, what's the thing after print?
LN.
Oh, that's an L. Okay.
Let me
Hold on really quick.
sure.
Print LM. Can't see what that is. What is after the LN? Parentheses?
Yeah, open parentheses.
Okay. Okay.
Got it?
Yes.
And then you do double quote.
Okay.
You'll still notice that I gave you another double quote right next to it, right?
Uh-huh.
And now you're going to type hello space world exclamation mark. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, that's it. Now we're done. In order to have the computer run this piece of code that we've written, at the top of the screen, you'll notice a green play button. You hit that, and at the bottom of the screen, you'll see run : hello world.
Hold on. Wait, where's the button?
It's
Oh,
at
the
the top
green
of
play?
green play button.
Okay.
You should see hello world at the bottom of the screen.
Whoa.
Okay?
Wow.
So here's what happened. Computers don't understand regular human speech, so they only understand ones and zeros. So what happened was that when we hit play, NetBeans told the compiler, which is a special program, to translate our code into ones and zeros, also known as machine language. So when we hit play, the compiler ran through, it looked for a class, it found one class, which was, in my case, test project.
Mm-hmm.
In that class, it looked for the main method, which it found, and then it found all of the instructions in the main method, right? It then translates all of those instructions into ones and zeros and then runs it. So the compiler's responsibility is to convert human readable code into machine code. Got it?
Uh-huh.
All right, so one other thing I need to show you, which I didn't show others, is that if you hit 2 forward slashes, these are comments. So you can type whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's just for so you remember what you did before, and if you want to like label what the code is. Another way to write comments is /star, and then you type whatever you want, and then it needs to end with a star /. See on my screen?
What does the star do?
It just tells the compiler to ignore
Oh,
everything until you see a star /.
okay.
Okay. So one other thing is that in Java, every expression or line that isn't a class or a method needs to end in a semicolon. Okay.
Mhm.
What this tells the compiler is that, hey, we're done with this instruction. Okay.
Mhm.
So you'll notice system.out.println hello world semicolon. We told the system to go to its output system and then print the line hello world.
Mhm.
The semicolon says, okay, I'm done. Every line in Java that's not a method or a class needs to end in a semicolon. Got it?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to delete that, and then we're going to go and I'm going to explain to you what a variable is.
Okay.
So how you want to think about this is whenever you're programming, the computer will give you a garden, okay? Just gives you an open yard, and you need to fill the garden with whatever you want, okay? So in order to do it, you need to pick a plot of land in your garden, dig a hole, and then put a plant in it, okay? In Java, the shape of the hole is really important. Only things that match the shape of the hole will fit in the hole, okay?
Mhm.
So in this case, I'm going to choose the int shape. It's also known, properly it's called a type, okay? So I'm going to create the shape int, which is int, and then I'm going to give the hole a name, and I'll call it value, right? And like I said earlier, you have to end everything with a semicolon.
Mhm.
Now, what just happened was I just dug a hole in my garden in the shape of an integer, and that's it. I didn't fill it with anything, but I now have a hole called value that's in the shape of an integer. In order to put something into value, I use the assignment operator, which is the equal sign. So first, I need to say what the hole is, which is value. Okay,
Mhm.
that's the hole. I use equals to tell the compiler or the computer, I'm about to put something into this hole. All right, and I'm going to say 5. The int hole can only hold non-decimal numeric values. So it could be -5, it could be +5, but it cannot be 5.0. That will not work. It can also not be like 10/3.
Mhm.
Right? Well, it can be 10/3, but it's going to do some weird stuff, which I'll explain later.
Mhm.
Right? Now, just like we did before, we're going to do system.out.println, open parentheses, but instead of doing double quotes, this time we're just going to put in the name of our hole, which is value. Got it?
Mhm.
And when we hit run, what you'll see is that the computer, instead of printing value, actually prints the value in the hole, which is 5. What we
Okay.
said was that we told the system's output system, hey, go to this hole, pull out whatever's in the hole, and then print it to the screen. Okay? This is how variables work. You need to give it a type, which is the shape of the hole. You need to give it a name, and then you can put whatever value you want inside of that hole. Got it? Follow so far? Any questions?
No, it makes sense.
Okay. So instead of declaring the value, which is saying that the hole exists, you can actually declare the value and put something in it in one line or one expression statement. So you do int value, and then immediately you do the equal sign, and then you say 5. This is called declaring a variable and giving it an initial value. We declared a variable called value with the shape int, and we gave it an initial value of 5. So when we run this program again, you'll see once again the value is 5. Got it?
Mhm.
All right. Now I'm going to declare a second int called other value, and I'm going to give it the value 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to print out other value instead of value, and you'll see that it gives out 10. Now, I'm going to set other value equal 7. What do you think system.out.println is going to show now?
An error?
Show 7.
Why?
Well, because I initially filled the whole other value with 10, but then at line 22, I then put the value 7 into other value. Now, what's filling the variable is 7 instead of 10. I've overwritten the initial value 10 with the value 7. So this means that variables, like their name suggests, are variable in what they hold. You can put whatever you want in them, and they will hold that value at that moment in time. So if I were to do a printout here and here, you'll see that at this point in time it's 10, and at this point in time it's 7, and you'll see 10 and then 7, right? Got it?
Yeah.
So variables can also hold the value of other variables. So if I did this, what happens is that this doesn't mean that these two things hold the same thing. Not at all. What this says is that take whatever's in value and put it into other value. Whatever's on the left side of the equal sign, the assignment operator, takes the value of whatever's on the right side. Okay? So in this case, other value is going to have what when I do a printout?
5.
5 is correct. Okay? You can also do things like this. So now what happens here is that the computer will go through, it'll see, oh, other value, that's the whole I'm dealing with, the variable. An assignment operator, I'm about to put something into other value, and then whatever's on the right. So there's an evaluation that needs to happen here. Value minus 8. So the system is going to complete whatever's on the right-hand side of the assignment operator, no matter what it is. Once that's done evaluating, it goes into other value. So the computer will look, hey, what's currently in value? It's 5, right? And then I subtract 8 from 5, which is negative 3, and I put it into other value, which comes out to negative 3. Okay? So now I'm going to go into some of the basic operations. Minus is subtraction, plus is addition. Okay? Star is multiplication, forward slash is division. Now, when you have an integer variable, okay, and you do division, it's going to do a special kind of division called integer division. Like I said earlier, variables, in Java at least, their type cannot change. Once you declare a variable as a specific type or shape, you can't change the shape ever again. So if you try to put a non-integer value, which this is, into an integer, Java will try to do its best and make it happen. When you take one integer and divide it by another integer and try to put it into an integer, it's going to do integer division, which is round down the nearest whole number. Okay? So in this case, it's 0, right? Because 5 divided by 8, the nearest whole number is 0, rounding down. If I were to change this to 15, you'll see that it's 1. The nearest whole value in 15 over 8 is 2. Oh, sorry, 1. Right? The other special basic operator I want to show you is called the Modulus Operator, which is a percent sign. What this says is do division, but instead of giving me the value of what the division is, give me the remainder. Okay? So if I take 5 divided by 8, what's the remainder?
I don't know.
It's
Wait,
supposed
how does that do? Why does the percentage do division?
it's remainder. This is the modulus operator.
Hmm.
So this tells me how much would be left over if I tried to divide 5 into 8 parts.
Hmm.
Okay? If it divides evenly into the denominator here, you get 0. Okay?
Hmm.
So what this is really useful for is if this number is gigantic, okay? This will tell me, I don't know why this is complaining. This will tell me if, oh, this number was too big. So this will tell me if 3,943 has 8 as a multiple,
Oh.
okay? And if it doesn't, it'll tell me what is left over. So 7 is left over.
Oh.
That's the remainder, okay? So 16 has 8 as a multiple, so the resolution, there's no remainder, right?
Gotcha.
0. So what this is really, really most commonly used for is to see if a number is even or odd, for example. If I change this to 2, if the number is even, other value will be 0. Otherwise, if it's odd, other value will be 1,
Yeah.
right? 0, 1. It's a very, very fast way of finding out whether or not things are divisible. Let's say
Hmm.
that I had a huge number and I needed to see, can I split this huge number into 10 even parts? So what would I need to change this expression to?
10.
10, correct. And if this value is anything other than 0, I cannot split it into 10 even parts, which you can't.
Yeah.
That's why the modulus operator is really useful. Okay?
Hmm.
Now, the other type that I want to show you is the float. So I said, I'm going to comment this out. So I said int only holds integer values, positive or negative, right?
Hmm.
The shape that holds decimal values, anything with a dot 0 or dot 4 or whatever, is called a float. Keyword is float, just like this.
Hmm.
Just like int, you need to give the whole or the variable a name. I'll call it float val. It equals, and then you have to choose a number and end it with an f. The f says that this number is a float. So I'm going to choose 5.2 f, semicolon. Always semicolon, right?
Hmm.
System dot out dot print line float val. You'll see that it prints 5.2.
Hmm.
Got it?
Hmm.
I take float val, and then I try to do regular division, 5/3, right? Because this was an integer, I didn't put the f on it, right? And I didn't put the f here. It does integer division and then puts it into float val. In order to get this to work correctly, you need 5.0 f, p.0 f, and then it does regular division and gives you the correct value. Get it? Did you understand that one?
Yeah.
Now, the important thing to note is that you can't do it the other way around like this, right? If I did int value equals 5.0 f divided by 4.3 f, right? You try to run it, one or more projects compiled with errors. This means that there was a compiler error, a compile time error.
So it's just because it didn't begin with float.
Yeah. You tried to put a float value, which is the float shape, into a hole that only holds integer
Yeah.
two,
Okay.
right? Now, if you try to say run anyways, this is the compiler telling you, hey, you have a problem. I can't translate this. I can't convert it into machine code. You say, shut up, do it anyways, and you hit run anyway. It's going to give you an exception, which said, hey, there was a really big problem. it says exception in thread main, uncompilable source code, uncompilable, wasn't able to compile, right? And then it tells you the line, testproject.java, which is the file name, 30. Line 30 was the problem, and NetBeans conveniently marks it in red. What do I need to do in order to get this to compile?
Change it to float or change it to an integer.
Yeah, which one do you want to do? Either will work.
Let's do float, beginning with float.
What do I need to change to get it to be a float?
Int.
To?
Float. And then make value float val.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Do this. Right. Yep, that's the value. Last thing I need to go over is scope. So whenever you see an open curly brace, it needs to have an closed curly brace somewhere. Okay? From the open curly brace to the closed curly brace is called the scope of whatever you're talking about. So with this particular method, the scope of the main method is from here until here. Right? This means that the method only knows about things within this curly brace and this curly brace, this open curly brace and this closed curly brace. If I have code out here, this main method has no idea about it. Okay? Likewise, the scope of this class, public class test project, goes from here until here. Got it?
Yeah.
Anything outside of those two curly braces, the class has no idea about. All right? So if I said, I want you to put it in the scope of the main method, it has to go somewhere in here. Well, all the way down to this curly brace. If I say put it in the scope of the class, it has to go somewhere in here.
Okay.
And that's about it. All this other stuff I'll explain in another lesson, but that's the totality of today's lesson. That's all I explained.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. The next lesson is actually very involved. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be there, so there's going to be a lot of questions. I highly recommend that you take notes for that next one. But this is just to get your feet wet. We went over integer types, basic operations, statements, scope, printing out to the screen, and yeah, that's about it for now. One thing to note is that system.out.println knows how to print variables if you just put it inside. If you wanted to print straight text, just like we did with hello world, straight text
has to be in quotes.
Needs to be in quotes, correct, double quotes, not single quotes. Single quotes are something else. Okay?
Okay.
You can print whatever you want, and it will print it straight out to the screen. When Java sees an open quote and a closed quote, it's called a string literal. It's a string of characters, a literal string of characters of O, A, I, S, J, D, F, I, O, all strung together. So the open quote, closed quote determines, just like the curly braces, the scope, that's not really what you call it, but the scope of the string literal. Okay? So you need to determine where the text begins and ends using the quotes. Got it? That's it. Done.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Is this gonna be? Was this recorded or is just
I
live?
recorded it just now. It wasn't recorded last time, but
Yay. Okay. Thanks, Paul.
yeah. I'll send you. Well, you already have the homework. It's only 11 questions.
Okay.
It should take you like 5 to 10 minutes. Not very long.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So just send it whenever you can. Because you weren't able to see it on Sunday, that's fine whenever you want.